Welcome to foggy, rainy, wet New Brunswick. Just a little update on the hoop house, but also I'll explain in just a moment the silly title of this video and give you the improved look at the bean tower, bean teepee in the garden. And after that, just a little look around inside of the hoop house and me complaining about this miserable weather. Well, this is by way of explaining the silly title to this particular video. You probably saw in my last video my attempt at building a bean tower or a bean teepee, and I wasn't satisfied with the height. Well, I had a comment from Brendan, Bacon Soda channel. If you don't watch Brendan, you should go subscribe now. He's very entertaining and also an excellent gardener. He recommended that I use zip ties and zip tie two of the bamboo canes together, and that would increase the height. Well, that's what I've done, Brendan, and I'm very impressed. Well, I guess you can see that. Foggy, horrible weather that we're having here. Heavy rain yesterday and heavy rain forecast again for tomorrow. I'm very concerned about my beans and potatoes that I planted last week. We were supposed to have sunshine this coming Sunday. Today's Thursday. And today they've changed that forecast. The next possibility of sun is next Tuesday, if they happen to be right. So I don't know. Well, the potatoes and beans are going to rot and have to be replanted or not. But anyway, I now have a bean tower that I'm confident is tall enough for the beans, the pole beans. They may indeed go to the top. It's a little bit taller, maybe a foot taller than the other trellises that you saw me planting them beside. There's one to the left there and one behind it. They're 8 foot, well, probably less 10 inches, so they're a little over 7 foot tall. I would say this is close to 8 feet tall. Anyway, there is my brand new Irish teepee. Carrying on with my Irish theme, Brendan, this is my one surviving cara potato. The other 5, I guess, were frozen by Canada Post and didn't survive, but this one particular one, which was quite small, has produced a nice plant. I've had it in the hoop house until a few days ago when I brought it out and set it here in the garden, and now I'm toying about putting it back in the hoop house. I'm scared that with all this cold, wet weather it'll develop some kind of a blight, but anyway, I'll decide later today whether it should go back in, because tomorrow is supposed to be torrential rain, 50 to 60 millimeters of rain tomorrow, and really no let up in this miserable weather for another several days. Well, a quick little look around in the hoop house here at a few things and how they're doing. That's the peas. From this side I don't see any blossoms, I guess, but when I'm over standing by the bench there's 1 or 2 that have started to bloom, so if we ever see the sun again I think we'll have a lot of pea blossoms coming on shortly. It's the Daikon in the back and the few leeks that I have there in the front, both which are continuing to do quite well. I haven't pulled any of the Daikon, I won't, but I've been down and looked under the leaves and you can see the tops that are the size of a good-sized carrot, so they are starting to develop, and they grow very fast. I think they're probably slowed down a bit because they'd like to see some sunshine. The onion's continuing to get larger. I haven't bothered to dig down to see if they're developing a bulb yet, but from my understanding of how onions work, they grow their tops until the summer solstice in late June. That's when they develop most of the top growth. And once the days start to shorten and you're heading towards the fall equinox, the top growth doesn't really develop that much more. They put all of their energy into the bulb. So far so good. Looks like they have good tops. Most of the brassica seedlings were very small when I planted them, so they are not very big yet, but a number of them are doing quite well. what we're looking at there. The one furthest to the right is the Collards. I've never grown Collards before. And the one on the left is a variety of broccoli. And of course, along with everything else, there's cabbage and cauliflower and kohlrabi in there as well. The two that aren't doing so well are the cabbage plants. You can see them kind of laid down there. I've propped them up several times, and they don't seem to want to progress very much. But so far, so good with the rest of them. Various peppers and tomatoes haven't really progressed very much since I planted them. And as you can see, the tomato plants are sort of up on the top end of this particular shot. A lot of the older foliage is very yellow. I don't know, lack of heat, lack of sun, lack of some kind of nutrient, I guess. One thing I'm going to do that I've never done before is today I'm going to put Epsom salts around both my tomatoes and peppers. Epsom salts is mostly magnesium, and that is supposed to help with yellowing and with setting fruit, so give it a try, I guess. The newer growth on the tomatoes is darker green, so I'm still thinking they're okay, but there's been a lot of yellowing on the lower leaves, and again, tomatoes like heat, and we haven't had any. I'm happy with the progress on the beets so far. They're developing their true leaves and coming along nicely. Still planted way too thickly, but my hope there is to get them up to big enough size that when I thin them, I'll be able to eat the thinned out ones as beet greens. Well, that's one of the grape clusters on the beta grapevine. As you can see, it's starting to bloom. Not a very exciting blossom, but that's one in bloom. I know very little about what to do with grapes, but I watched a video recently on YouTube with, I shouldn't give you the name of the, I'll try to remember the name and put a link up. Excellent site about organic gardening anyway. And what I was interested in was what you should do for pruning in the summertime. Each one of these side branch vines has several clusters on it, and the recommendation was to only leave one cluster on each side branch. So as soon as we get a warm, dry day, I'll do some pruning in here and remove the other clusters and just leave one cluster per side branch. And that particular vine with the grapes growing on it, you should cut the end of it to stop it from getting any longer once it has 15 leaves. Well, I've got 8, 9, 10 leaves on some of mine. None are up to 15 yet, but when it gets to 15 leaves, you snip the end so it doesn't get any longer, and then the plant will put its energy into the grapes. And the lady also snipped off the end of the grape clusters. Once the cluster was long enough and starting to develop into grapes, she took the tip off of a few grapes off of the end, and supposedly that makes the rest of them get bigger quicker or something. So I'm not sure if I'll do that particular part or not, but I'm going to follow the rest of her instructions. Well, if you remember the canary in the coal mine, the pepper plant that I thought I had lost, as you can see, it's still got life in it. It's been probably, more than 2 weeks, probably 3 weeks since we noticed that it was starting to produce a little greenery down there, but the top of the stem is certainly gone, so prune that off, and as you can see on both sides there's little green leaves starting to come out, so I'll have to pamper this guy. When he gets a little bit bigger, I'll move him into a smart pot or something and see how he does this summer. What you're looking at here is the row of mustard greens. 3 different varieties of mustard greens. The furthest back is called Southern Giant Curled, and that's an heirloom variety. I grew one of those in the hydroponics rather, in the house this winter, and really enjoyed it. After it's cooked, I couldn't detect a mustard taste. I ate one of the fresh green leaves here, and there is a slight mustard taste. Next to that, moving forward, if you can pick out the sort of smaller red vein ones. That thing is called dragon's tongue, and believe me, that's well named. I think it was Gary Entropy from Germany who asked me this winter when I was first trying mustard greens if they tasted like mustard, and I couldn't see where they did. I still haven't cooked this dragon's tongue variety. I picked a leaf and tried to eat it raw. It tastes like the hottest Dijon mustard you can imagine. Very, very hot and very strong sort of Dijon flavor. I enjoy Dijon mustard in small amounts on various things that I eat, but I don't want to sit down to a meal of it. I haven't cooked it yet, as I said. I'm going to cook it, and if it gets a little milder in the cooking, I'll keep it. If not, those are coming out. I've don't have any space left in here to plant my tomatillo, but I think I might just have found the space. I was going to put it out in the garden. And the one closest is called Red Giant mustard. I can't say as I've tasted that at all, but what I'm going to do shortly here is pick a few leaves of each and take them in the house and try them. I have this one labeled as one of the Red Giants, but it doesn't have as much red in the leaf as the other two beside it. However, what I'm showing you here is, I just noticed it's starting to send up a blossom spike. I'll clip that off and see if I can prevent that. Of course, that's what most mustard is grown for, is the seeds to make mustard from. But I'm trying to grow these things for the greens, if it isn't painful to eat them. What I've done is just taken one leaf of each of the two varieties that I'm concerned with. This is the dragon's tongue, the one that I tried raw. It was incredibly hot. And this is the giant red. I'm just going to lightly saute, wilt, whatever, and a bit of olive oil, and give it a taste, see what's happening. Keep the two areas separated here. That will do. That's the Red Giant. Yeah, Red Giant. This one is the Dragon's Tongue. Well, it lost a lot of that heat. There's maybe a little bitter aftertaste, but no heat at all in that one. So, no heat, but as I continue on with it, I can taste a mustard flavor. So now I will keep that, I guess. I certainly won't use it as a salad green. Giant Red has a bit more of a mustard flavor, but again, it's very mild. All of that heat that I tasted when it was raw disappears. So I guess I will be saving them and enjoying my mustard greens. Back outside, just to finish off with a couple of looks at a few things that are growing in the outside gardens here. This is black currant. French call it cassis. And the particular plant, I think, is only 1 year in my garden. I have 4 bushes. One of them has been here for 2 years, and the 3 others I added last year. But it looks like this year I may. Each of the bushes are about the same as far as the amount of blossoms on them. So it looks like I may get enough black currants to make a few small bottles of jam toward the end of the summer. It's one of my favorite preserves. I've never made it myself, so I'm looking forward to that. This is a very old red currant, and as you can see, the blossoms are quite different from the ones that are on the black currant. I've had this plant for many years. It makes a good jelly. It doesn't make a very attractive jam because it's a little black blossom end on the end of the red currant that always shows up in your jam. It's impossible to get rid of them, but you can, of course, get rid of them if you make jelly. I suspect the black currant has that little black fuzzy thing on the end too, but because everything's black, you don't see it. Well, anyway, that concludes this little update from the gardens and the hoopos. Thank you very much for watching.